There's a couple brand new Nintendo Switch stories we have to talk about today, starting with Sonic Frontiers getting more and more information revealed ahead of this game's holiday 2022 release, and we now know roughly how long it is expected to take players to complete this adventure. Then the big talking point for today's video has to do with Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, a broad discussion around the future of N64 games that we could see added to this service, as we are now halfway through the month of June, and we know that all of the games that have been officially announced will run out. We have to discuss when Nintendo will make the next announcement for an updated roadmap and which games we can expect to come to NSO Plus expansion pack next. What's up, nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we got a couple big stories to break down today, and we have to kick it off with a large conversation around Sonic Frontiers, as we are fastly approaching the window that we can expect this game to hit, and Sega, while making many questionable marketing decisions with how they've been showing off the game so far, that definitely has fans online very divided around showing specific areas of gameplay, just adventure only, and there's no combat in one section, then you see only combat in the next like 7-8 minute gameplay trailer they show. It's not a traditional strung together trailer that really gets fans hyped about the world that Sonic is entering into, what kind of story elements we can actually expect to see unfold in this adventure, and I am very conflicted myself as I'm going into this game with a cautiously optimistic mindset that hopefully it will be a quality 3D installment for Sonic and actually take it forward into the future of what Sonic games need to morph into in the 3D era, because clearly there has been many missteps along the way. But the reason it is back in the news today is there is multiple interviews taking place around the game with the series creators, and they're revealing more and more details, and it now sounds like we know roughly how long of an adventure this game is expected to be. So to get on the same page with exactly what's been said here, let's quickly hop over to Nintendo Everything and read through their detailed typed up article together. Sonic Frontiers will take most players 20 to 30 hours to complete, double for completionists. With many games, the question often comes up regarding how long they take to beat. We now have information about that for Sonic Frontiers. According to director Mario Kishimoto, Sonic Frontiers will be longer than previous entries in the series. Most players should expect between 20 and 30 hours to finish the game. For completionists, that amount can double. The longer playtime for Sonic Frontiers is why Sega decided to implement a character progression system. That led to the inclusion of a skill tree and ability for Sonic to increase his level. Fans might be interested to hear that they can even level up Sonic's speed. A speedometer can be seen on screen while running, and it can be upgraded. Kishimoto also had this to say: in previous titles, Sonic fans have enjoyed time attacks for each stage. For Sonic Frontiers, doing a speed run for the entire game might be a fun challenge. So for me personally, a 20 to 30 hour experience when you're just sticking to the mainline story progression stuff, and then talking about potentially doubling that for people who like to 100% the game, which, if enjoyable enough, I will definitely be trying to 100% Sonic Frontiers. I think that sounds like a solid amount of content and a lot of fun, as long as Sega does this open zone concept that they're talking about right. And I'm hopeful that the forest area that we've seen so far is not really like the standout moments of the game, because I just don't think they've shown enough right now that gets people very hyped to hop into this world and see the unique environments that they've created. And I'm definitely hoping that different zones stick out with many more things to do, a better sense of direction on why Sonic is in the world he's in, and also some clear streamlined progression of the story and the enemies and bosses. Like, I want to know a lot about what's actually going on in this world. Clearly we still have plenty of time before the game actually does drop, as it won't be out until late 2022, so I'm sure we'll continue to see more and more coverage. Now, one thing that I did also like to see from this article is the mention and official confirmation of skill tree and level up systems for Sonic. This is something that I've actually been talking about since we saw the very first trailer of Sonic Frontiers, that I thought would be a great idea for the Blue Hedgehog to adapt, and things like leveling up how fast Sonic can go is a very cool thing to me. That is the kind of stuff that if you have to go out of your way to complete certain puzzles or beat certain enemies to get leveled up, that is something that I can see being very enjoyable in a mainline 3D Sonic installment. And I am hopeful that if the combat system was thought out well enough, that you're unlocking some very cool abilities as you go along, and maybe some go-to attacks that far eclipse the kind of ones that we've seen so far, which look like traditional Sonic attacks. I want to see some next level stuff. Are we talking about going Super Sonic in this game and doing some insane chain combos in that, and then traveling across these open zones far faster? Like, there are definitely still some unanswered questions, and I just hope that Sega, as they get closer to their release, puts their best foot forward with the Sonic Frontiers title, and that we can maybe talk about Sonic in the 3D era being a standout mainline AAA enjoyable game from start to finish. But I want to hear from you guys what you think about the timeline that it is expected for players to complete the game, and it being roughly doubled that 20 to 30 hours if you're a completionist. Is that a timeline that you are happy with? Do you think that is a solid amount of gameplay to expect for this entry, or were you expecting more or less? So definitely want to hear from you on that, and your thoughts around the official confirmation that we have a upgradable skill tree combat style system locked in, and Sonic's ability to go faster. Definitely want to hear about all your thoughts and feelings on all things Sonic Frontiers in the comments down below. Now, the other story we're talking about today has to do with Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, specifically the N64 games roadmap, as we are officially halfway through the month of June. It is June 15th at the time of filming this video, what otherwise would have been a likely date for a Nintendo Direct to happen. However, E3 is not a thing this year, and clearly Nintendo does their own thing when they want to, so we are still awaiting that official announcement. And whether or not you believe the leaks and rumors online suggesting it's the 28th or the 29th, that's kind of where I'm setting my expectations. That's also likely where we'll get the updated roadmap for N64 games, but we do have to talk about what's around the corner next, because Pokemon Snap is the very last game that is announced officially for the service. And if Nintendo sticks to their track record that they have so far since the service launched, we get one new N64 game per month added into the expansion pack, and that should be Pokemon Snap this month. But in terms of their timeline with history of adding these N64 games, it's very sporadic. It's not like you could ever expect it to be towards the beginning, middle, or end of a month. It has literally been almost different with each individual release, sometimes announcing the release ahead of time, maybe a week or two, saying that Majora's Mask is this month's game and that will be out towards the end of the month, or sometimes it is just a surprise announcement that it's available within 2 days, or we just see maintenance get scheduled for the N64 app, so we know it's going to be coming around the corner from Nintendo. Like, they have done the release schedule for N64 games in all different ways. The only thing that has been the constant is that one new game does get added in each calendar month. So at some point this month, most likely before the Nintendo Direct presentation, we should see that trailer and or Twitter announcement from Nintendo stating that Pokemon Snap is indeed the June game. Now, from there, the roadmap is going to get interesting, though, as the N64 is very unique in the size of its library in terms of first-party Nintendo games. Yes, there are many timeless classics on the system that could be added in, some of which may have more licensing issues than others, and it'll be curious to see what Nintendo does in terms of how many Rare titles are they going to bring to this service, because you can argue that Rare had some of the best standout N64 games of all time, period, and I do think that that partnership needs to continue, as so far we've seen Banjo-Kazooie hit the service, but we need to get those other Rare classics as well. And depending on how much money Nintendo is willing to spend and work with Microsoft on to get some of those titles over, will be very interesting to see. Now, in case you have forgotten, shortly after the service was launched, there was a big data mine that hit the N64 and Sega Genesis app, essentially showing that the expansion pack as of right now has room for up to 38 N64 titles slated to be added in, and some people were even going through the alphabetical list, kind of putting together what games could fit into what slots. And while all of that is up for debate and speculation, I think that some safe bets that we will for sure see added in into this N64 library that are unannounced are some games like Super Smash Bros. Bring that back with online play in the modern era. I do think that that game holds a ton of nostalgia for different people who grew up playing that original version of Smash Bros. And while you can argue that Smash Ultimate is definitely the definitive version of that game, I still would love to go back and play through that again on my Switch with online play in 2022. I think that one's a very safe shoe and bet. I also think that the Mario Party games are very likely, maybe all 1, 2, and 3 that were all out on the N64, and it'll be very interesting to see how they implement online play with that, if it is there at all. But I am hopeful that you do bring back those classic Mario Party games and throw them on the service, and I think that's an easy move for Nintendo. Games like Wave Race 64 and then even 1080 Snowboarding I think would be likely additions as well. It shouldn't have too much red tape at all to bring it over to the service. And from there, you have to talk about some of the Rare titles that absolutely need to make it over, and I am hopeful that since Banjo-Kazooie is already available, that there is a long roadmap and working partnership with Rare. As I mentioned, they made some of the timeless classics on the N64, and the first one we have to talk about is that heavily rumored game that so many fans are waiting for some kind of announcement for. This, of course, is GoldenEye 64. We were very hopeful that maybe, and according to Jeff Grubb and multiple insiders, this game's a real project. It should be ready to go. It's just a matter of when it's announced, and we were expecting maybe at the Xbox Bethesda showcase to see the curtain pulled back and that GoldenEye remake or remaster, whatever it will end up being called, will be released, and it is a Microsoft title. Then Nintendo would probably feature it as part of the NSO expansion pack at the Direct later on. However, Microsoft did not reveal that title, meaning that did Nintendo negotiate that we want to be the ones to announce and reveal this thing, and we want to have it drop on our expansion pack? Then Microsoft, you get your own Game Pass iteration with probably some updated visuals. And does Nintendo get that version also on the Switch as a standalone copy? There's a lot of different ways that the GoldenEye 64 release could go, but this is one that, even though many fans were already expecting to see this game launch and we've been waiting this whole time, there is still so much smoke around it that there has to be a fire with the story. There was a paid transaction from somebody to re-review the game early to get it off of the Germany ban list. Rare developers are out there still unlocking new achievements every other day, it seems like, online. There was an official achievements list spotted on Xbox website shortly before it was pulled here recently. There is absolutely something going on with GoldenEye, and I'm definitely hoping that that is the big marquee standout title that Nintendo actually leads with to talk about the future roadmap of the N64 expansion pack games. From there, Donkey Kong 64 absolutely needs to hit the service as a rare title that is quality through and through, and one that I would love to see how it's aged over the years. I have not played that game at all recently, and I would love to re-experience it today in 2022. And then we have to have Diddy Kong Racing, arguably the most fun kart adventure action racer ever, period. Fight me in the comments down below if you think otherwise, but I think that this was an absolute fire game through and through, and one that, why it's only ever had this initial release and then that DS remaster, and why we haven't had Diddy Kong front and center with this style of game released over and over with future iterations on the modern consoles. Like, it's beyond me. I think that this game was a masterpiece through and through, and if that hits the expansion pack with that co-op mode intact that you can do online with a friend, I think it is a game changer for the service. And then next, I think games like Banjo-Tooie are a safe shoe-in, since we already have Banjo-Kazooie, and a couple rare titles I could see maybe not making it just due to the M rating, and we're not sure how Nintendo handles that with the online service specifically, because so far we haven't had any M-rated SNES or NES games added to the service that I'm aware of. And we are talking about games like Perfect Dark and Conker's Bad Fur Day, as clearly both of those would be instant fan classics that we would all love to see replayable currently on our Switches, but whether or not we see those games make it over, I think is less likely. Now, you also have a ton of other games that aren't rare titles, like Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 also would be huge for the service, Orc Battle 64, Turok games. Like, there's the list goes on and on. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and predictions on when we will see Nintendo update the roadmap for the N64 games. Do you think that it is indeed coming at the Direct? Do you think that GoldenEye is the big announcement that is planned for leading off that Nintendo Switch expansion pack roadmap like I am hoping to see? And if you had to list a few of your favorite all-time Nintendo 64 games, definitely throw them in the comments down below and share with me which ones you think we will see added to the service from Nintendo and officially announced next. And also share with me your thoughts on Sonic Frontiers and all of the new information we are getting around that game. So I do look forward to hearing from you guys, regardless of your thoughts and opinions on everything we talked about today, in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, where we discuss a big Nintendo Switch game leak that could be a featured announcement at the upcoming and rumored Nintendo Direct, as well as a breakdown of what, if anything, was really changed in this most recent Nintendo Switch firmware upgrade. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.